And the Roman civilization in our program is only by two texts. One is called on the nature of the universe by Lucretius, and the other is Virgil's epic on the Aeneid. Now, when we look back, we think of the last reading we had was Aristotle, right? And Aristotle was the teacher of whom? Alexander the Great. Now, Alexander the Great, therefore, we're skipping all the time of Alexander and going all the way to the Roman. So what is happening between Aristotle and the Roman civilization? The period of Alexander the Great is referred to in history as Hellenistic, whereas the Greeks of Pericles and the Peloponnesian War are referred to as Hellenic. They are of the Hellenic culture. Now, interesting thing about Alexander the Great was that he was the conqueror of the world. But while he conquered the world, he had a kind of open idea about cultures and religion. Whenever he went to a country, he asked them, what are your beliefs? So when the Egyptians said, we believe in Amun-Re, he said, this is like our Zeus. When the Phoenicians said, we believe in Baal, he would say, this is like our Apollo. And so they had a kind of fusion of Greek and local cultures. And if you go to the National Museum and you see the beautiful big sarcophagi, these huge tombs in stone, you look, they are from the Hellenistic period. They are made with themes from Greek culture, but they are done in Sidon or in Tyre, locally, by local artists. So there is this kind of marriage, this kind of fusion between Greek and local, Greek Egyptian, Greek Phoenician. Even in India, he went all the way to India, Greek Indian. So it is a kind of merging of these two cultures. Now, of course, we know that Alexander is the one who destroyed the Persian Empire. He burned down the city of Persepolis, which was the capital of the Persians. So sometimes when we think of these conquerors, a lot of what is happening nowadays probably happened in their days as well. I mean, you think of the Mongol occupation of Baghdad, Holako burned down the city of Baghdad. He burned down the library of Baghdad, which was one of the greatest libraries. So you think of how much material has been lost. Lucky for students who don't have to read them, but a lot of material which has disappeared. The same thing happened when they attacked the Alexandria library. So all these maybe Napoleon Bonaparte was the only one who brought people with them to do excavations in Egypt, and they found hieroglyphs. But most of the people are usually destroyers, Now, if you are living in a culture of war, and if you think a little bit of Alexander's period, Alexander had an empire that went all the way from Macedonia, Greece, to all the way down to Palestine. You have Alexandria cities everywhere. If it's not Alexandria, it is Alexandret. Iskandar, Skandaria, Skandarun, all of these names are named after Alexander. In his time, there was one coin with his face on it used everywhere, like the modern euro now. It's one money everywhere. But everywhere there was this kind of continuous war and, Roman, Greek Empire and so forth. So during wars, usually, when they get too prolonged, you get two types of philosophies. One philosophy is like the one we had in Vietnam War and the United States, which was the hippie movement. Make love, not war. We don't want to go and fight anymore. Sitting in the Central Park, smoking LSD, thinking of, flower power and so forth. The other was, it is our duty to go and be martyred and be going to the war and doing this is the best for our nation and so forth. So these two philosophies developed in the Hellenistic Empire. One was called Epicureanism, which we will be reading about it through Lucretius, and the other is Stoicism. Stoicism meant that I accept my destiny and my fate, and I do whatever the gods want me to do. And that is what makes me happy, even if it involves suffering. And the main theme of Stoicism was duty above pleasure. It is always duty above pleasure. Now, if you look at this feeling or this theme of duty above pleasure has been found in many cultures and in many things. You find it a lot in French literature, in texts like Corneille or Racine, or you find it in Shakespeare's plays. When you have a choice between two things, you always choose duty. So this is the Stoic approach. And many people think that this was very much also influential in Christian culture later, accepting suffering and duty and so forth. Now, the Epicurean, on the other hand, the Epicurean culture, on the other hand, was make love not war, be happy, live the day pick it like a flower. If you've seen the Dead Poets Society, movie, Carpe Diem is pick the day like a flower, live today, forget about tomorrow. And therefore, it was what we call a hedonistic culture. So therefore, what we're going to read, which is Lucretius, and they're going to present, is this concept of Epicureanism during the Roman age, which will continue. Because the Romans also, if you have seen any Roman films, it's a continuation of empire all the time. I mean, the Roman Empire extended from all the way from Rome to England, to France, to Asterix, to Baalbek, to Jerash in Jordan, to Libya. So this is the Roman Empire, and all of them war and gladiators. Again, these philosophies developed there. So I will just give a little bit concepts of background, so that by that time they are ready, maybe our two people will come. So the Roman Empire basically, until it became an official Roman Empire, took a long time. We have lots of wars that took place, for example, between the Phoenicians of Carthage, Hannibal, if you remember, who crossed the Alps in elephants and occupied Rome. We'll see this in Virgil. But one of the things that is very much known about the Romans was that it was very much a military society also, a little bit like the Spartans. Now, can you think of anything Roman in Lebanon? Okay. And what was its name? Yes? Yeah, how would you translate that? The city you can translate.
Yeah.
It's polis. And the sun? Heliopolis. Helios is the sun. Heliopolis was the city of Baalbek. We call it Baalbek because the Phoenician Baalbek is under the Roman Baalbek, but we know very little about it. I mean, who would dare to come and remove all that Baalbek and look at the Phoenician? Now, recently, the Germans have done a little bit of excavations. There's a tunnel that goes around the entrance as you go, and they did some excavations because the name is Baal, and Baal is the Phoenician god. So it is originally a Phoenician city. And of course, if you think of Baalbek, Baalbek was the storage of food for all the Middle East. It was the granary, all the Sahl al-Biqa' was what fed all the Middle East, in terms of grain and vegetables. And of course, wine was a very important center, and it was a caravan trade route. So Baalbek was an important thing. So one of the things that they are very well known for is their temples. And the temples, I don't know whether you want to talk about that in your presentation. How many of you have been downtown recently? Downtown is that place down there, yeah. Do you know where Liban Post is?
Yeah, there is also a part in Roman bathroom.
Yes, not bathrooms, but baths. Yeah. I know you are all obsessed by bathrooms, but Roman baths, if you are standing, if you know where is downtown, Riyadh Street, where once upon a time the banks were there, I don't know what they do now. And there is, your back is to the Liban Post. I don't know what Liban Post has become also. Next to it is Lucretius, there is the communication ministry. If you look straight, there are stairs. If you go up the stairs, there is a huge opening in front of you where they had the Roman baths. Now, what do you mean by Roman baths? I mean, did these people take showers at home? One of them is arrived. Okay, we have one more missing in action, or no?
It's not gonna make it.
Okay, so you can do it alone, okay?
We can do this one.
Okay, so I'm going to go into just this part, and then we can go on with them. The Roman baths were one of the greatest, I don't know whether the Ottoman baths later, Hammamat, as we know them, was also an imitation. But they did it in these public bathrooms, public baths. And they had these big, first you would enter, and you would have the room of removing your clothes and hanging them. Then you have cold water, tepid lukewarm water, and then hot water. So you go into 3 pools. And the way it was heated was through a central heating system. So if you are an engineering student, the earliest you can think of pipes going down, all these tiles with a big furnace outside where you heat the water would go on. So they would have these fantastic, discussions, philosophy and everything around these baths. And when you're naked, maybe there isn't much you can hide, so you can talk openly about all your ideas. And then on the way out, they would go again through these 3 waters, so that when you go out, you don't go from hot water directly into the outside weather. So these baths were also beautifully decorated with mosaics, and you find them all over the world. Wherever you have a Roman city, there's a Roman bath. So one of the things they had was the temples, they had the Roman baths, they had the agora, or this forum, the downtown where they used to meet, the hippodromes, the one in Sur is where they had the horse race. But one of the things that is very interesting in Lebanon, they had the biggest law school in downtown Beirut, in Aub CHLA, I would call it. Now in a city where we are a bit lawless, it's interesting to think of a city where people used to get scholarships to come from outside to study law in Beirut. The Roman law school in Beirut has not yet been found. We don't know where it is. It could be under one of the churches or one of the mosques or under the parliament, which would be very appropriate to have it there, the law school. But we know from coins, and when we go to the museum in a few weeks' time, and we look at the Roman coins of Beirut, which was called Berytus, you will see a picture of the law school. So the law school existed, it's not a myth. And then there was an earthquake in Beirut, it was destroyed, they moved to Saida. And the Roman school became the law school. So to think of law and legal education as being centered here, it's one of the interesting things to think about. Okay, another thing that I would just tell you about, and then we can go to our presentation. The Romans also were very much clever in architecture, especially in building aqueducts. You know what are aqueducts?
The water.
Okay, but the Romans, were interestingly clever. They thought, why make pipes under the ground, and when there's a leak, you don't know where they are? Let's make our pipes above our grounds. So they made little bridges like this and put the pipes above them. And have you ever seen any of these aqueducts? There are 2, you can see them in Beirut, in the Beirut area. One is in Nahr al-Kalb. If you take the road that goes right from Nahr al-Kalb, which goes up to Zikrit, I don't know if you know that road, there is an aqueduct like this. In the past, the cars used to pass under it. Now you go this way. There's a park, water park there, and The other one is sometimes it's referred to as Anatas Baida. It is between Mansouriya and Marta'ila. If you go down, there's a wadi, Yishuni, down and up. There is one there. These are Roman aqueducts. And very interesting. There's a leak, you see it, leaks on you, you see it, you fix it. And now only the leak is under the ground, we don't see it. Of course it comes up. We have another way of looking at it. So these are some of the interesting things about the baths and aqueducts. And one of the things that we need to think about when we think of Roman culture, the Greeks were very ideal in their sculpture and in their art. The head had to be 1/3 of head to waist, the waist had to be half of the head so everything was perfect, and the sculpture that you created did not have to match somebody real. It was a bit like Plato's ideal, you know. Your beauty in its perfection. The Romans did not care. They made sculptures as they thought. You will see when we go to the museum, there is somebody with, you know, squinted eyes. There's a big toe sticking out. There's a pimple on the face. It doesn't matter as long as you do it grandiose and you do it big. So these are some of the ideas I wanted to share with you on the Roman culture. And then we will go to Lucretius as you will start. Okay, who are you? Where are you? Where is my mouse? Okay. USB is with you. Are you bringing it? Are you starting? Yeah. Come.